Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, and it is I, your boy, Krown, speaking to you straight from the future, from here in 2021. And if you are listening to this in the past, well, I can welcome you, and I can assure you that 2021 is everything is better. Everything's all good. It doesn't actually matter that it's not, but perception is projection, my friends. And you know what? With that said, I do want to wish you a happy and healthy start to the year 2021. Of course, if you have New Year's resolutions or whatever the fuck you're looking to do in the year 2021, I wish all the best for you. And with that said, as always, wish you the best and the happiest. And with that said, let's get into the Krown Chain application, which we found at app.krownchain.net over here, of which, what do we see? We do see plenty of things. We do see that there's actually a sale going on. I'll talk about that specifically later. And on top of that, we do see that Bitcoin dominance still hanging out above 70%, of which we do see open interest still hanging out above that 4.5 billion marker, currently sitting at 4.7 billion, of which we do want to see it essentially follow up with price action, which is not necessarily going to be a main focus of this analysis, but do want to keep it in the back of my mind's eye, as the fear and greed index also falls a 1 point from a 95 to a 94. And with that said, let's go into the data tab and see if there's any sort of canaries, cardinals, whatever the fuck in this coal mine barking off our ears, saying that it's time to pay attention. And actually, yes, this is rather bizarre. It's actually very bizarre here. Wow, I'm really glad that I looked at this. OKX and Bybit showing negative interest rates right now, negative 0.01%, which is not anything crazy at all. And of course, that's not even anything to consider. But this coming in within the context of Bitcoin and basically a full-on fucking boolah market here is rather interesting and does make me kind of err on the side of further continuation of the upside here. Anyways, more importantly, we do see that the other exchanges hanging out well below the threshold to the upside at 0.1%, of which that says no major warning signals just yet, although I do imagine that at some point in time we will see a major massive pullback. But to answer the question, is it further continuation in 2021 before further pullbacks? Just based off that, I'd actually be looking for further continuation, at least another try to the two new all-time highs, of which actually I believe we already have new all-time highs for this for this year. Hey, nice one. Good way to start off 2021, huh? Anyways, what else do I want to say? Yes, there is one or maybe two major announcements. I'll be back on Twitch later today. Looking forward to some dooming and Bitcoining. Good times. However, there's not going to be any Forex video today, obviously, because, well, it's not trading and traditional market's not trading as well today. So what else do I want to say? Yes, if you missed yesterday's video, I do want to remind you that Caretaker's STC is now a lifetime purchase, meaning that if you did get it at any time in the past, meaning at any point in time, we have retroactively applied that to you, and you now have it not just for the year, but also for life. Meaning, again, you don't need to email us or anything like that. It's all good. We've already taken care of it for you, and for anyone who is interested in the future, yes, it is now lifetime, just like the RSI. Just makes it easier for us because PayPal is a fucking pain in the ass to deal with. But yes, I hope that serves you well, and happy 2021 to you all. Anyways, let's get into the actual price action charts themselves. We'll start off with the higher term timeframes today. It's going to be a big focus on the higher term timeframes for these next few days because, well, it is kind of like weekend time and real markets aren't trading right now. So I imagine it's probably not going to be too much on the short term timeframes. But starting off with the monthly right here, we do have new monthly close on new all-time highs, not just on new all-time highs, but on significantly new all-time highs, well above the topside Toronto band once again. So trend does continue into January. And while I do believe that Bitcoin will play out a pullback somewhere around the topside Toronto band, as of currently is sitting around $24,500, I would be looking for that to be, at least for myself, at least a bouncy bounce buy, if not maybe even a long-term buy, as Bitcoin does continue its boolah-ishness into 2021. So with that in mind, let's go check out what our momentum oscillators are saying right here. We see that monthly MACD still pointed and very much erect to the upside, and more importantly, making new highs on the histogram here, which does suggest that there's, this breakout is real, which, I think that's more or less formality, but it's good to see the higher term timeframes further confirm that. On top of that, we do see that DMI plus on the next tick is, of course, making new highs above our June 19 highs, but more importantly, we do see that the ADX remains strong here as DMI plus is also dominant. On top of that, and most importantly, actually, for the monthly open, we do see that the monthly accumulation distribution indicator right here does remain with a positive slope. And if you're new to this indicator, I do have a video on it in the TA program. However, just to briefly explain it, I only care about the slope of this indicator. If it's an upward slope, good. If it's a downward slope, bad. Well, I mean, great if you're bearish, of course. I do not care about the colors, red or green. We are not Christmas Nazis here. We are just looking for slope analysis on this. And if you actually back test this, just the changing of the slope has gotten just about every macro cycle perfectly right. Maybe not perfectly right, but mostly right since the genesis of Bitcoin. And once again, we do remain with a positive slope. Yes, the slope has shifted down just a slight degree there, but still, it is a positive slope. So I do remain overall bullish into the month of January, meaning that if Bitcoin does pull back to that $24,000 or $25,000 target, I would be looking to be a buyer on the first pass. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Blah 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 blah. And there you go. Anyways, what else do we want to say? Let's go over the bi-monthly as well, which just closed yesterday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And what do we see? Topside Toronto band getting closed above for the first time on the bi-monthly, actually, since our run, or Bitcoin's run, more importantly, in 2016. Let me just make sure that I'm recording. The microphone's working. Okay, that's good. And actually, let's turn off the sound over here just in case. Never know what's going to happen. And yes, topside Toronto band on this one coming in right around about 24,000 as well. So I do believe that Bitcoin likely does pull back down somewhere around 24,000 bucks, give or take about 500 from that number, probably sometime in January. But I would also look at that as an opportunity, at least on the first pass. And on top of that, momentum oscillators, do we see anything out of the ordinary here as well? Bi-monthly MACD looking really fucking powerful right there. Bi-monthly DMI plus is dominant, and ADX is still staying strong. So good on that one as well. And then actually more importantly, on the accumulation distribution indicator, we do see that it remains with the positive slope. In fact, even increasing the slope to the upside here, which is rather aggressive now. Now, does this one actually work out in the same way that we do see the monthly? Because the monthly is very, 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 very good at getting this. And let's just back test it right here together, because I actually typically do not reference this one. And with the earliest data that we have only goes back to 2014. Unfortunately, if you do the monthly, you can go a little bit further back than that, and it'll actually populate some data. But we do get a negative slope. May 2014. Did that get the bull trap right here? Yes, indeed it did. Excellent, good. Then when did we switch around the slope to the other side? Right here in November 2015. So that actually got the momentous drive on from the lows at 230 bucks, by the way. All the way to about 20,000 bucks right here. Then it switches in July 2018. So that was actually on the bull trap right here. Right around about 10,000 bucks. So it didn't get the $20,000 high, to be fair. So this one's not as precise, if you will. And good night, Elsa. She stayed up all night having a good time. Anyways, more importantly, we do see that after that slope change, we do see it once again shift to the upside in January 2020. So getting this low right here. And if you are looking at closures, obviously this is looking pretty damn good, but I should remind you that coronavirus dump did happen soon after that. And while the closure did happen above all major moving averages on this time frame, even with that in mind, that did account for, well, I mean, more or less like a 50% drop down right there, or more. So most importantly, we do see everything kind of following with each other, and I would be looking for this to ultimately print new highs probably within these next couple months, probably even this month. I mean, we've already even seen new all-time highs today, which is rather a good way to start off the year. Anyways, moving on to the quarterly, what do we see right here? Very, 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 very similar. Topside Toronto band is currently sitting at just below 24,000 bucks. So I'd say anywhere between about 23.5 and 24.5 is where I'm looking for on a pullback sometime in January, probably after Bitcoin tries for some new all-time highs first. Scares the shit out of everyone, because that's going to be, like a 20% move from where we are right now. If I were to just kind of eyeball this, yeah, but actually a little bit more than a 20% move, and that likely does shake out a lot of people. However, I should also reflect upon the fact that anytime that we've seen Bitcoin make new all-time highs, in this market, let me actually go to my BLX index on a weekly closure, going all the way back to the genesis on BLX index, and I'm talking about all the way back to 2010. Anytime that Bitcoin's closed on new all-time highs for the weekly, we have seen it essentially melt to the upside afterwards. For this first example right here, we have a fucking 430% runner to the upside, then short-term reversal when and then it closes on new all-time highs right here again, and then we have another melt up phase of about 212% to the upside once again. Same thing right here, closes on new highs, and then melt up for another 3,000% to the upside, not bad. Then reverses for about half a year right here, and the next melt up phase happens soon after that on new closing highs for about 1,300%. I am using wicks here, so it is a little more exaggerated, to be fair, but as you can see, I mean, it's still going to be pretty fucking massive no matter which way you kind of print this one. Same thing over here, a little bit of a short-term reversal plus closing on new all-time highs, and then boom, melt up for 600%, then a big reversal for about a year over here, then closing on new all-time highs for the weekly, and that was your melt up from about $1,000 to $20,000 in 2015 to 2018, and then big reversal for the last couple years right here. And by the way, you are noticing that, or you're probably noticing that all of these accumulation phases right here, right here, and right here, they become longer and longer and longer, and that provides a bigger and badder base, or not badder, but bigger and better base is actually the proper terminology. like, I guess there's not really a real terminology for that, but that would be a more accurate way of putting it. And more importantly, that does suggest that we probably do play out these cycles longer. And you do see that this is essentially happening. I mean, this one over here happens over the course of about just under a year. This one over here happens over the course of about 1.5 to 2 years. This one over here just getting started potentially. And as you can see, ever since Bitcoin did close on new all-time highs for the weekly, how much have we seen on the melt up phase thus far? About just over 50%, which is obviously phenomenal and massive, but within the context of the history for Bitcoin, is that anywhere out of the ordinary? Well, actually it is, because it's quite a muted response thus far. Now, of course, when I am measuring these out, I'm looking at the culmination of that next major macro high. So that's not to say that, like we're going to, we're going to see that like immediately. Obviously, it's going to take some time, as this one over here did take a couple years. This one over here taking months. This one over here also taking months. And more importantly, if we were to, even just look at this from the lowest common denominator from those prior results, let's just kind of play around with numbers here and see what would 200% be on top of our current price action. And that would be, okay, my chart doesn't go up high enough, so let's just just do that. I'm at 168% right now, and that is $51,000. Let's see what 200% would be, because that was our historically lowest one, and that'd be actually right below $60,000. So is it is it relevant to think that Bitcoin can have more in this rally? Yeah, absolutely. And that was on the lower end. I mean, on the upper end, we saw what, like a crazy runs. I think this one was maybe the craziest right here. This was about 2,000%, or maybe this one way the hell back on over here was a little bit more crazy percentage wise, that is. Nope, not that one. Maybe the one prior to that right here could be. I'm just curious. Yeah, about 3,000% right there. So I'm just curious to play around with the numbers. I'm not saying that it's going to happen. Look away, fucking look away, everyone. I just want to do this for myself. 3,000% to the upside would put Bitcoin where? Just out of curiosity, about $600,000. So anywhere between about $60,000 and $600,000, historically speaking, that would be the range. However, that's a very, very bad way of doing it. I'm just playing around with numbers here. I just want to see what's historically relevant or not, just kind of judge where we're currently at in our cycle. And with that in mind, I do believe that Bitcoin does have ultimately more on this rally. Now, of course, I believe CMEs are trading today. Yeah, they are trading today. So we will be able to see the weekly closure for CME, and if that comes basically anywhere here, anywhere above the top side trend band once again, which is currently sitting at about $26,000, I'd be looking for new all-time highs coming into next week, most likely. Now, where would those relevant levels to the upside be coming in our current price action? Well, if we go down here to our lower term timeframes, we do see that. Let's actually go to the 4-hour. We do see that Bitcoin is continuing the uptrend. Yes, we did identify the pullback yesterday on the Forex video down to the 21 exponential average. It actually just got front ran a little bit, of which this is kind of what I was saying over the last couple of days. While Bitcoin, I am still bullish on the short-term timeframes, we have a major range here, and Bitcoin can come all the way down to the 3.618 breakout from this little consolidation phase at 27,600 and still remain short-term bullish. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. So that was an opportunity. And as we identified on the Twitch stream, likely to pop back up and test at least $29,000, which we got, and now making new all-time highs on top of that, hitting our 4.236 target, which we overlaid coming out of this whole base over here after breaking the 3.618 for those fib extensions. So now it is a little bit of an interesting one, because in order to get the next move, I mean, these are just algo targets, right? So that would imply that if we do take out the 4.236 right here, then next melt up phase. And to do that, I'm actually going to be taking a deeper fib extension, which, do I have it on these charts here? No, I don't actually. I think I have it on this chart over here, maybe. Yeah, let's see. Let's go to stamp and see what stamp has. Yeah, there it is. Okay, sweet one. So above that level, we do have the 3.272. That's not really a big one. Usually the 3.414 and the 3.272 kind of play off of each other, and it creates a little bit of a range. And then the real target's going to be the 3.618 here on this extension, which would be efficacious if we do see this next weekly closure coming above the 3-spot extension come from this whole consolidation phase over here. So that's what the extension is based off of, the whole consolidation from basically 2018 to 2020, and that would imply, well, another couple $1,000 the upside, which is kind of crazy. So keep those areas in mind. These are just algo targets right here, with a big one at the $35,000 region. And this is kind of what we've been saying for a while now, is that these algo targets, they're not necessarily like hard and fast rules. You can see that Bitcoin obviously plays off of them. using this one right here, using this one right here, using this one right here, using this one right here. But that's just because, people are going to be taking profits off that. Obviously, that becomes a bit of a what's called positive feedback loop too. And on top of that, we do see that, we do see that while it does respect those levels, it does play off them incredibly. It does actually play off them very, very well. It usually doesn't work out this well, but in this case it is. So yes, I would say that if Bitcoin does close this next 4-hour dildo above, or any 4-hour dildo above 29,500, I would look for the next relevant area from a fib perspective, of which it's kind of weird to be calling a $1,500 move about to the 31,500-ish region right here. That would be based off of weekly though, so it wouldn't necessarily mean that, the second that you close above that region on a 4-hour, you're just gonna fucking shoot up in the next 4-hour dildo. No, it's gonna be judged on a weekly schedule, so maybe over the next week or two. But yes, that would sit in the buys for further upside action. And of course, that always comes mediated as we do by a downside bias buster, if you will. And in this case right here, it would be the same thing as yesterday actually. As long as Bitcoin is above the short-term pivot, which is all the way down at 27,600 right now, so more than $1,000 move, more than about a $1,500 move, which is really something to think about right now, that our fucking low-term time frame ranges are $1,500, actually a little bit more than that. It's more like $2,000 right here. Nothing changes, just as we spoke about yesterday. So we get a similar move like that, but I would not switch around even my short-term buys until Bitcoin breaks back down below this area right here on at the very least a 2-hour and preferably a 4-hour. And that again is 27,600. If that does happen, I'd look for another $1,500 move to the downside, all the way down to the prior pivot out of this space at about 26,200. That's where the medium-term timeframes do start to change around. And if you do see any sort of a 2-hour or 4-hour dildo closure below this level, 26,200, I would look for a big move to the downside. And funnily enough, where the natural algo target be, it'd be right here at this 2.414, which guess where that one is? Right below 24,000 bucks. Remember where all of those topside Toronto bands were coming in on the higher term timeframes, like the monthly, bi-monthly, and quarterly. Yes, it's very, very interesting to see the confluence there. So while I do think that Bitcoin at some point during probably even January does initiate that move, the question is, does Bitcoin try for new all-time highs first? I think it's actually rather likely it does. So fair enough. Let's see what the 4 hours looking like right here. Okay, so a couple things really stand out right here from momentum oscillators. First off, 4-hour Stokes coming down, but they're playing the critical zone. I don't look at that as too problematic, and they will actually cross back onto the upside above 29,350. Now, what I'd actually be looking for here is for it to come down a little bit more and then bounce off the critical zone as it typically does. More importantly, though, we do see that HVP is incredibly low right now. It's actually back down almost in the single digits once again. And while I do think that it plays out a little bit more of a contraction phase here, it is going to be setting up for a pretty damn big move, of which could that be the next melt up from the short-term timeframes? Probably yes. Base that up with the 4-hour RSI, now the momentum oscillator right here. I would be looking at this as likely to have an upside resolution, just based off the fact that we're in the bullish control zone above the exponential, and long-term it is very constructive. Short-term down, yes, short-term likely is down. However, especially if you see 4-hour Stokes turn up while 4-hour RSI is in the bullish control zone, while historical volatility percentile is posturing for an expansion phase, we're probably going to get that next move up, and then 31,500 doesn't sound so crazy, I guess. I mean, like I said, we're in the twilight zone. Is 4-hour Joule given any sort of a signal? No, not really. Not giving shit right there. What about the 3-hour? Do we see anything of particular interest right here? 3-hour Stokes actually popping back up and will remain to the upside as long as we close the next 3-hour dildo above 28,930, and that is looking a little bit likely as it is right now. But still another 2 hours, 26 minutes, and 25 seconds to go. 3-hour RSI constructive, short-term down though. Long-term constructive though, very, very good actually long-term. And same thing with HVP over here. It looks like it's going through a contraction phase in line with the 4-hour. Moving on to the bi-hourly, what do we see right here? We see bi-hourly Stokes technically up right now. They do look a little bit tired to me. Will naturally cross to the downside with any sort of a closure below 29,134 and 90 cents coming in the next hour and 26 minutes even actually, with potential, well, no, we're not really seeing anything different on bi-hourly RSI. Short term, it would imply a little bit of down. Here, so I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin pops back down and tests maybe around like 28.8, 28.7-ish region. But as it stands right now, I mean, again, is that violating the critical region even for the short-term timeframes below 27.6? No, it's about $1,000 above that, so it doesn't really do all that much for me. In fact, we could probably raise this up a little bit to more like 27.850, but we'll keep it consistent here so people can follow along a little bit easier. Looking at the hourly, what do we see coming down on momentum oscillators? Like Stokes will remain to the downside as long as below 29,465. So as long as we don't make new highs essentially on this run, again, it would line up for a short-term pullback. Do we see anything on hourly Joule? I know someone called that out earlier. Could be lining up for a better signal maybe over the weekend, but I would not consider this as such just yet. And hourly HVP is very obviously contracting. Hourly RSI, again, short-term downside here, yes, but long-term, I would be looking for that to get picked up smack dab in the middle of the neutral zone. So all good there as well. Again, this is still even looking, I guess, decent from the short-term timeframes. So I do understand that things look absolutely insane right now. It is absolutely insane to be fair, but well, things can get more insane, I suppose. Looking at 12-hour, what do we see on the medium-term timeframes? 12-hour Stokes still absolutely fucking erect. Now, we did identify yesterday that this area right here, on this horizontal trend line, typically does align with highs on our 12-hour Stokes, actually, with just a few examples over the past few years where it does get above in extremely aggressive market conditions. We're talking about, for example, the run in 2019 to 14,000 right here, which was an equally as impressive run as what Bitcoin's doing right now, although this one's, has a greater degree, obviously. But as it stands right now, would this be a good place to potentially be a warning signal? Yes. So I do want to temper what I'm saying right now by saying that, hey, keep in mind, it's extremely likely that Bitcoin does have a pretty major pullback here, down to likely those areas that we spoke about, 23,500 or 24,500 is where I'd tentatively be looking. And could it be based off something like this right here? Not in its entirety, but the next time that we do, or on this next tick, if you do see this start to crawl back down, which by the way, it will cross to the downside with any sort of a closure below 28,480, then I would be a little bit concerned of that. However, this is essentially wedging itself into a little bit of a trend line right there, of which a cross to the downside wouldn't necessarily be, super problematic in and of itself. However, breaking this right here, and especially back down below the critical zone, more importantly, in fact, I'll just even get rid of this and just operate off at the critical zone. If you see another move below the critical zone that is sustained, that's probably gonna be your next, greater pullback, which at that price point, I mean, that's, as we identified earlier, would be about a 20% move, which is pretty fucking big. Even though for us who have been in this game for a while now, just the fact that Bitcoin's even around $30,000, like, holy shit, who gives a fuck if it's $30,000 or $25,000? It's still a pretty massive number. But as a trader, have to be aware of these. Have to be aware of these, and it's better to be using percentages right now than using straight up numbers, because they're just gonna, they're just for me especially, it just kind of like blasts me. So it's like, what the fuck, $2,000 move for a 4-hour range? This is ridiculous. Like this is what you dream of. But if you look at it from a percentage basis, it makes a little more sense, and that can kind of at least for myself snap me out and be like, oh, okay, this is actually fine. This actually makes sense within the context of the current price structure, and all good. So I would say, maybe that's useful for you as well. And onto the 12-hour RSI we go, as the 12-hour RSI is looking very constructive right here. This does make me think that Bitcoin likely does have another move to the upside overall. So short-term timeframes may be extremely short-term timeframe pullback here. However, I would still be favoring the upside, I suppose. 12-hour Joule is, nope, it's actually going to shoot above right now, and all of them have positive slopes, so that is not a signal as of yet. Maybe it's going to line up on CMEs. No, CME is actually in bullish posturing here. That's fucking crazy. It's going to take like another week or two if it even is going to line up for an actual sell signal. So again, it's not there just yet. And while we are looking at the 12-hour, what we could also do to judge a short-term pullback, or I guess in this case it'd actually still be a short-term pullback. Fucking hell, man, that's, oh my God, it really is a $2,000 range for a short term. That is ridiculous. If we even just take out the last 12-hour low at 28,000 even, this is on GDAX. What is it on Mexico? It's 27,941. So yeah, about in the same area. Then I would be looking for the next about almost $2,000 move to the downside, somewhere in the low $26,000 region, probably around the 21 exponential moving average for the 12-hour time frame right here, as that likely would confirm bearish divergence between this point and this point. And usually my easy target's gonna be down to the 21 for that signal. hint, hint. But that's, again, only if we take out last 12-hour low, or if on the lower term timeframes we do close like a 2-hour below. I think it was 27.6. Yeah, 27.6 sounds about right. Yep, 27.650 actually. So fair enough. We could probably even use 28 at that point as well. Just close enough, or sorry, 27.8 is what I mean to say. Okay, all right, so we got through the 12-hour, all good right there. HVP is contracting, so I do imagine that we're probably going to put in this high on contracting volatility, and when it gets very, very low, you're probably going to see something, something resembling a climax, from a volume and volatility perspective, and things will move really fucking fast. But typically, highs are made actually on lowered volatility, and usually, historically speaking, for Bitcoin in particular, Bitcoin actually doesn't really make its highs on volume climaxes either. You can see over here in 2020, I mean, it was a spike, yes, but it makes its lows on volume climaxes, like you see on this $6,000 move right here, on this $3,000 tick down here, on the coronavirus dump right here. The highs in 2014 are a little bit more, 2019 are a little more muted than that, and 2014 as in the same vein as well. So just something that's a little more particular to Bitcoin that you might want to be aware of, I suppose. Anyways, is there anything else that I want to speak about here? Daily Bitcoin still flip-flopping around. They actually will cross back onto the upside with any sort of a closure above 28,281. We also see that daily RSI is actually going to potentially even invert. No, it's potentially even going to undo potential bearish divergence here. If we do make a new high above our last high, oh my God, okay, that's not even really relevant at this point. Anyways, this is a whole new phase. Daily Jewel is in bullish posturing. I mean, it's extremely aggressive. I don't look at that as, that's not a fucking buy signal. Don't get me wrong, but it's not saying, it's more importantly saying this is not a sell signal yet. It's still going to take at that level. It's probably going to take, if it even is going to line up like as soon as possible, it'd take like a week, maybe a week and a half, if it happened like as soon as possible, which is unlikely to happen. Well, I mean, it could be actually, to be fair. I also do want to speak about this as well. So I was looking at this earlier. I do think that this does warrant some consideration here, and it's this. Was it on the daily or the weekly? Yeah, I think it's on the daily here. Okay, so here's something that I do like to be aware of as well, and this is, we're in the TI Nerd session now. Yeah, we're deep inside the TI Nerd session. So the differential between the 21 exponential moving average and the 10 simple moving average right here, you can also use a 9 exponential moving averages. They're going to be mostly the same. It's very interesting to be judging potential local high potentials, I suppose. And anytime that we do see it get exaggerated, around a certain percent, we actually do typically see at the very least sideways consolidations, like you see right here, and actually we'll start measuring them out right now. But this one being about around an 8% differential right there, does produce a sideways consolidation, ultimately does break out again to the upside. But more importantly, we want to be identifying potential stop and reverse points because, well, at the same time, I mean, while this did end up being a buy, it was still a 40% move to the downside. And you can go back to this this short-term reversal over here too. The 10 simple and the 21 get away from each other by about 7% at its height right there, and then sideways and actually down, albeit it does get accumulated. But again, a warning signal to say, hey, this is not the time to be putting on risk. Same thing over here, about 7.5%. And that was on the highs from this run. Again, same thing, gets reaccumulated, but ultimately it tells you, hey, this is not the time, opportunity cost wise, this is not the time. Over here, this coronavirus high, this one actually only about 4.25%, so not all that crazy. Going back a little bit further to the run in 2019 to 14,000, this one a lot more exaggerated, about 11%, so a bit of an outlier there, but that was on a major, in some ways, a macro high as well. Same thing over here, this one being about 10.5%, again sideways and down, but this was a this was a pretty massive move at an $8,000 number. Top to bottom was a 16.5% move about. Time before that was on these failed rallies over here, where it actually got very exaggerated once again. At its height, this one being about 6%, doesn't look, or actually looks a lot more aggressive, but if you actually measure it, it's not as aggressive. This one 4%, not as interesting. And then of course the $20,000 high right here gave you a differential of what 14%, or sorry, 13.25%. So we do see a bit of a rhyme to this, and at the end of the day, we are seeing that the differential between the 10 simple and the 21, as it is right now, is about 8.5% for relevancy. So that it is the time to be thinking about, hey, yes, Bitcoin probably does have another move to the upside here, but we are getting very, 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 very close to a pullback. And again, if I had to call the pullback, I think it comes somewhere around $24,000, give or take $500 from that number. And ultimately, that will be an opportunity for me. At least I will look at it as an opportunity, potentially even for a long-term trade, especially on the first pass. And it'll probably happen really fucking fast too, and scare the absolute ever-loving shit out of everyone within this market. So, just keep an eye on that. As the more and more exaggerated that it does get, the more and more that it's implied that we are getting closer and closer to a big, a greater pullback here, which down to 24 or 25, or down to $24,000 from this current price action would be more than a $5,000 move. And if Bitcoin went up to, 31,500 first, I mean, that's going to be, certainly more than a $5,000 move. It's going to be about a $6,500 move. So fair enough, $7,500 move, which, again, at that price point would be, well, I mean, that'd be quite the pullback. That would be, percentage wise, very relevant. Yeah, about a little bit over a 20% move. Very big. So keep an eye on that now that we're in the TA Nerd session, because I do think that while Bitcoin probably has another move here, it's probably time to be thinking about covering, at least for myself. Let's see. Did we close a 2-day or 3-day yesterday as well? Or do we close anyone tonight? I think we do at least a 2-day. Let's see. 2-day actually closed last night. Once again, above the topside trailing band. I look at this as trend in progress as long as we are closing above the topside trailing band. So again, we already have new all-time highs, so that that call already essentially happened. Let's go to the 3-day. Same thing, actually closed yesterday night as well at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and same play here. I mean, yeah, it's still good. I'd probably be looking for new all-time highs first before a pullback, and if there is a pullback to $27,000, that would be another opportunity from the 3 days perspective on a backfill, at least for a little bit of a bouncy bounce there. Okay, cool. Let's go check out what Caretaker has to say about this one. And the hourly range is showing what? Showing 30,000 to the upside, a point of interest, versus 27.7 to the downside. So actually getting the short-term range very well here. If Bitcoin does break above this on an hourly, I'd probably be looking for that next target to get hit to the upside, over a week or a week and a half probably. By the same token, no changes on the short-term time frames, which the hourly does represent quite well on this indicator, as long as we're above the downside pivot, which is essentially in line with what we looked at earlier, 27.6 to 27.7-ish region. Anyways, back onto it over here. Or actually, let's go see what the higher term time frame targets are going to look like. Jesus Christ, man, that is humongous. Cell number 1, 31,800, so that's around that 31,500-ish region. Cell number 2 is going to be $35,000. So those are the two major ones that I want to be interested in. For further accumulation to the upside. Again, this move is very fucking exaggerated right now. It can get a little bit more exaggerated, but those are the two areas that I really be keeping a keen eye on for potential, major reversals on Bitcoin. And do we have anything maybe on a 4-hour to be aware of? I actually don't really find too much use in the 4-hour on this indicator, although actually backtesting is decent, I suppose. 31.5 actually is showing up there. Fair enough. Versus 24,000 to the downside, so I actually really like that, as that would align with our higher term timeframes here as well. Okay, so that is mostly good. Just curious what I'm guessing traditional markets closed on new all-time highs as well. Yep, I'd be looking for new all-time highs coming into January on NASDAQ. Same thing on SPY. Still sticking with those upside targets as we spoke about earlier. MicroStrategy. Yep, this one's gonna follow through. Weekly close has already been had, and it's on new. It's above the prior major breakdown point about 20 years ago in September. So I'd be massively bullish on this one up to about $600. Or is that right? That doesn't sound right. What is this level over here? $550 we'll call it. Yeah, so pretty phenomenal move right there. This one more or less chasing Bitcoin though. So I do think that it's relevant if you're trading traditional markets, but you look at Bitcoin first and then you trade this one is the way that I'd be doing this one. What about tech sector? Tech sector actually did close maybe on on a little bit of indecision right there, a bit of a doji dildo at the highs. That is a little bit concerning, but the monthly still looks more or less good. If it does want to pull back, 126, 127 would be the area, and again, I'd look at that as an opportunity. What about some of the altcoins here, sir? What about Link on a monthly? Probably does stab back down to about 935, 950-ish region. Probably does bounce from there. I don't feel too compelled about this one. It's going into a consolidation phase. We do have a lower high in place. Now, do we get a lower low? That's a real question. If that happens with any sort of a monthly close below 970, then we got big problems. Well, for link hodlers, that is. Not for me because I don't trade this thing. But for right now, I do identify this as a consolidation phase. I think it's a little more obvious on a weekly. Weekly's in limbo here. I have no call on this. It's going to follow whatever direction Bitcoin goes, but it's certainly not looking as strong. Mr. Buteral is definitely one of the bigger beneficiaries of Bitcoin's next phase, as it seems to be number one and number two. I'd still stick with an $800 target here. Actually, a little bit higher than that. Probably more like 840 on a wick. Monthly close very strong, very fucking strong. I'm guessing that the 2-day and 3-day closed decently well as well. Yeah, and here's the obvious trade on this one. Taking out not yesterday, as the day before, but let's just look at the last 3-day low, which is all the way down at about 6. Okay, this fucking stupid Poloniex. Let's go back to an exchange that matters. Yeah, here we go. If we take out the last 3-day low, which is 689.07 on Finex, then yes, I would be looking for a greater pullback. First target would be 650. And then second target would be 590. However, as long as that's not happening, I'm just generally looking up here. It's very likely to follow Bitcoin. Monthly is powerful AF. It does want to pull back. 620 is going to be a very obvious bounce area. And I still stick with, it's not even an $800 target anymore. It's like an 840 target, actually, 850. What about Litecoin? Litecoin monthly closure, phenomenal above the last prior high. So we are officially in a reversal. We have a higher low. We have obviously a higher high. If we're closing above the last prior high, it will naturally be another higher high. And next, major area of interest is going to be right below $200 actually. So looking good, and I imagine that their Bitcoin Satoshi pairings I'm not too concerned with. It's more or less the US dollar pairings that I think is a little more interesting to be looking at right here, just because it's easier to judge. We can look at the Bitcoin dominance chart, however, and this is phenomenally, massively, girthily bullish, and I imagine that most altcoins could really be not having a good start to their 2021. This is continuation. This is an uptrend. This is a higher low. We are essentially closing on higher highs. Actually, this was 71.02. This one closing 70.98. So actually, technically not closing on a new high. But if it pulls back down here to like just under 70%, that's likely going to be your next major high on most altcoins. Of course, not every altcoin. There's going to be some winners here and there. In fact, someone yesterday night on the Twitch stream called out Theta, I think it was, and that one was looking completely different as well. So there are going to be outliers here and there. But for the most part, they are going to not be having a good time versus their Bitcoin Satoshi pairing. But if assuming Bitcoin continues to the upside here, they will very likely have a great time versus their US dollar pairing. And long term, this is going to be like 3 to 6 months down the line. Let's call it 4 to 6 months down the line. I'd be looking for this to pop up to 80%. This is going to get very, 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 very bad for altcoins. I don't think that they can keep pace with Bitcoin. I do think that you're going to see regulations come in, similar to how you see it happening with Ripple Nipples right now, and that is going to cause an absolute pandemonium as the regulatory agencies phase out all of these garbage projects. Sorry, I said it, but listen, if your white paper looks like a fucking sales pitch, it's probably not legitimate. I'm just saying. And listen, I'm no coder. I can't read code, at least not like to a high degree, and I don't know much about that, but I can tell you this. If your white paper has nothing about the actual project itself in a technical sense, and it just talks about marketing essentially, go fuck yourself. Marketers, god damn it, you guys have ruined everything. No, you haven't ruined everything, but man, I don't I've learned to be very careful with marketers. I've learned to be very, very careful with marketers. Put it that way, man. You'll notice that this channel has basically none, like really zero marketing. We don't do fucking ads. We don't do anything. We don't even ask you to fucking subscribe or like the videos. And that's because I've had a lot of bad experiences with marketers, and I'll just leave it like that. Okay, so now that we got all that out of the way and all my early morning woes, let's see, we're 38 minutes into this video. Let's start to wrap this bitch up, actually. So let's start it off over here. I want to really focus on the monthly. Obviously the quarterly, and I mean, let's also look at the yearly here too. Here's your yearly. There you go. Have a nice fucking yearly in your life. We actually just got a 9 exponential moving average here too. It's nice, seeing as we're about 11 years into the history now. So we have about working on a third on our third tick for that. Nice one. Anyways, not gonna be as relevant, but we do have new yearly closing highs. Obviously, let's go back to the monthly, and we'll start to wrap this bitch up. Okay. Bitcoin on the monthly closing above the topside trend band once again, of which that will further incite the upside. And technically speaking, Bitcoin has already made new all-time highs. But with that in mind, I would be looking for a pullback, probably even sometime in the month of January, to the topside trend band on the monthly and the bi-monthly, which is the same area essentially, right below 25,000 or 24,500, and the quarterly as well, which is showing about 23,500. So all of those do come in around the same area. Sorry, I forgot to mention the monthly, which is technically speaking 24,500-ish region. So anywhere between about 23,500 and 24,500, I would be looking for Bitcoin on a pullback sometime, probably during January, maybe February. What's most important about this is the fact that, oh, hello, good morning to you. Anyways, sorry, Kachi's awake. More importantly, we do, I would be looking at that as an opportunity. Bitcoin on the whole, on the macro scale, is bullish. We do have new all-time closing highs on the monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, and yearly, and all higher time frames above that, of course. And that is accompanied by momentum oscillators, also further confirming that move. We do see that DMI Plus is still dominant. The ADX is still strong on this next tick. MACD is making new highs on the histogram, so the rally is real. And not MACD, but the accumulation distribution indicator remains with the positive slope. So all of these do make me bullish for a further continuation into beginning of 2021. Going on to the short-term timeframes over here, what do we see? We do see on a 4 hour that we are still essentially playing off the same range that we did speak about yesterday, with the 4 spot 2360 to the upside. That target has now been officially met, and the 3 spot 618 Fibonacci extension to the downside at 27,600. And we could raise this up to the last 12-hour low for a resolution to the downside on the short-term timeframes, but that would only be relevant for a short-term timeframe move, which at this price point is a $2,000 fucking range. But if we do take out last 12-hour low, which is about 28,000 bucks, we'll call it, then I would be looking for another dive down to the 26,200-ish region right here, of which I would be looking for a short-term bounce. If this area does break 26,200, I would switch on to medium-term bearish, looking for the next algo target to be met, which, by the way, if that area breaks, what's your algo target going to be? It's going to be the 2 spot 414, which guess where that fucking is? That's right below 24,000 bucks. So it'd be right on top of the on the top of the top side trend band for those higher term timeframes that we just looked at. And I'd essentially be looking for that to get met if those conditions are met. But for right now, short-term timeframes, I mean, technically speaking, we already have new all-time highs, but short-term timeframes are brushing up against the topside resolution of this. And as long as Bitcoin does not take out the last 12-hour low, I am going to be short-term timeframe bullish. I have to be. It's above my criteria. In fact, we can just raise this up like here, and that's good enough. But more importantly, if Bitcoin does take out the next fib to the, extension to the upside out of the last consolidation range that we saw back and over here, that would be the 29,500 pivot right here. So any sort of a 4-hour closure above there would set in motion the next, well, I guess weekly targets here, and that is going to be let's see, where's my, yeah, there it is. Okay, I think somewhere over here. Yes, there we go. That would imply the 3 spot 272 is going to be the next algo target. That's all the way at 31,500. So while I would be essentially looking around there, I would be very defensive of that. I do think that Bitcoin is going to play out a major pullback, maybe later this month or early February, it's looking like. And but I would be having these targets in mind for a nice little reversal. However, 31,500 is just your next algo target. It is going to be a big one, but if that area starts to get taken out, things can get even crazier to 35,000 bucks, which actually is the measure move off of this whole consolidation from 2018 to 2020 being resolved more recently. So this is pretty fucking interesting right now as Bitcoin does hit these higher levels, higher notes, and with that said, that's it. All right, let's go into the sale over here because we only have a couple more days for this. In fact, I probably should have brought this up at the beginning of the video, but I do want to make sure that people who are interested in this are fully aware. And of course, all programs are on sale for 20% off for the next day and 17 hours and 2 minutes and 1 second. There you go. Anyways, the TA and options program, these are very intense programs. They require a lot of time, a lot of effort, and they are, of course, as I always want to say, not a magic pill. It's going to require a shit ton of work on your own behalf. But I've seen plenty of people actually go through it now, and I can say that, you know, if you're staying this long into this video, you are a fucking TA nerd, so you might be the kind of person who actually is going to benefit from these programs because, well, it sounds like you actually, you know, want to put the work in. But I would say that if you don't actually want to be a professional trader, or if you're just unsure, then it's probably not going to be a good fit. If you are looking to dip your toesy woesies in, check out this program over here, the Neophytes Initiation Trading Technical Analysis, as that one is going to be a lot more streamlined, a lot more basic, and a lot less of a time and financial commitment, being that it's only above 11 hours about. So with that in mind, I would say if you're unsure, usually it's best to just take advantage of the free content, and maybe in like a few months you can decide for yourself. The sales will come back. There'll be another sale at a later date, I'm sure. But my point is that make sure that's a good fit for you. Watch the videos that accompany them, because they're going to go into detail on what's included in the program, and also what who's it really going to be best for. PineScript Mastery over here is from Mr. Mournfall himself, the creator of the Jewel, who will teach you how to make your own indicators in PineScript, which is native to TradingView. And then also in our partners tab over here, we got the Caretaker STC, which is now lifetime, no longer a yearly. And well, you've already seen it. I absolutely love it for the short-term time frame scalps. Then he has his Caretaker RSI. Same thing. It is no longer annual. It is yearly. God damn it, Mournfall, change this. But all good. And then moving on, we have Mr. Jackie with his group psychology program, which he will meet with you virtually on a weekly basis, talk you through your trades. And this is for the kind of person who already knows a little bit about trading and technical analysis, but can't put their strategies into a working plan and have consistent success. That's who this is for. So you have to kind of come in with a little bit of prior knowledge on actual technical analysis. And then on top of that, he has his video program over here, which is a much more streamlined program in comparison to the group psychology. Obviously, it's not going to include the weekly virtual meetings, but it will include the videos for that. So with that in mind, I do want to wish you the best of the best on this start to 2021. And it's been a sincerely amazing year. I mean, in a lot of ways, a very terrible year, but I do like that, this community has really come together, and it's been, in a lot of ways very difficult for myself, and I know that a lot of other people out there as well have had some difficult times, but it's nice to have a community where you can like bounce ideas off each other, off of like-minded individuals, and it really makes, at least for myself, it really made me feel like well, yes, we are going through these tough times, but when you got other people kind of surrounding you who are well-intentioned and good people, that's what really matters most, and that's something that I learned big time from 2020, and I hope that message finds you well, and I wish you all the best. So with that said, take care, and until next time.